everybody. My name is Lee Hall. I am a lawyer and also the author of On Their Own Terms, Animal Liberation for the 21st Century. And before I begin, I would just like to shout out to Maggie Sargent, organizer, who has taken on the role of keeping this going, keeping the light shining. Fantastic. Thank you, Maggie Sargent. It was a great day. I should also say that my own personal presence here is sponsored by Pamela Page, a patron of the art of animal liberation. So that is at patreon.com/Lee Hall if you want to see more of what I do. Thank you, Pamela Page. I am here to bring you some local news from Antarctica. And Antarctica, the sea ice of Antarctica is now local news. You all know why that is, right? Why Antarctica is local news, because the sea levels are rising around the world. And it turns out that Antarctic ice over the last 5 years has melted at an acceleration rate of threefold. Just in the last 5 years, the acceleration rate of threefold. So, you know, there's a kind of a smart remark that people make to vegans, right? They come up and they say, "Oh, you're vegan, are you? Well, let's say you were stranded on a desert island, right? You're stranded on a desert island and there's no tofu on it, right? Okay, so there's only animals on it. Then let's see how vegan you'd be, right? Well, now we have a new, it's unfortunate, but now we have a new retort for them, and it's probably the last word. And that's, we're not going to have any desert islands to be stranded with if the sea level keeps rising. And guess what? A vegan cuts their greenhouse gases in half. Okay? So where does that information come from? No other than Oxford University. They have a program at Oxford University in Britain, and it's called The Future of Food. Well, lo and behold, they have scientists at The Future of Food who have found, they've done studies on dietary greenhouse gas emissions of self-selected omnivores and people who call themselves ovo-lacto-vegetarians and also vegans. Well, the people who call themselves ovo-lacto-vegetarians, they actually did cut their greenhouse gases by 50%. But you know what? The vegans, they cut their greenhouse gases in half. So that comes from a study that was done 5 years ago, so we should all know this. And so when somebody's asking you about that mythical desert island, you can say to them, haha, my greenhouse gases from the dietary sources are only half of yours. Who's laughing now? They may say to you, but I can't give up cheese. They need to know that cheese causes the same level of environmental devastation as chicken farming does. And the cheese, chicken, CHCH, it's the same level. Actually, cheese would be slightly more, but you can't really compare devastation and runoff. It's all devastation and runoff. And it all goes into the sea eventually. And what happens in the sea? Obviously fish. If they're saying, well, I'm almost vegan, but I'm still eating fish, you can say, you're eating fishes? Well, that is equal to cows. That is equal, in environmental terms, that is the same thing as eating cows in the amount of devastation environmentally that the fishes, farming, aquaculture, and catching fish, the whole industry does. So really, there's no middle ground here. You are either, I like what Karen Davis just said, you are either on an animal-free diet or you are not. Okay. And both agricultural runoff, we were just talking about runoff, but then if you blend it with climate change, what happens to the waters, to the seas? We're now talking about dead zones in the seas where there's no life at all. And the reason that there's no life at all, and this can be thousands of square miles, these dead zones. Can you imagine if you were a being, a living being in the sea, and you saw something coming at you that was totally dead, and you could not move around it because it was thousands of square miles? You're dead. You don't have any oxygen. It's a dead zone. And the reason is this twofold. One is the runoff from animal agribusiness, and the other is the warming of the oceans. Those two, the nutrients that comes through the animal waste that goes into the water, combined with the warmth, means that we're having algal blooms from the bottom of the sea, and they're sucking out all the oxygen. So it's a combined issue, and we can stop it on a personal basis by going vegan. People say, well, you know, they're concerned about climate science, and they say, oh, we're going to be in such trouble in 2050. You hear how people say, if we don't stop, we're going to be in such trouble by 2050. Here's what's going to happen. The temperature is going to go up by so much. Or they'll say by 2070, the temperature is going to go up by so much. Okay. But it's happening now. Do you know that half the bird communities of North America are facing danger, the risk of extinction because of climate change? So it is already happening now. People need information about vegan organic growing and vegan culinary arts now. Vegan education would connect us, of all the things that we could be doing, what you see Eric doing, what you see Pamela Rice doing, what you see Maggie Sargent doing, is probably, and what you are doing by being right here today, by coming here today, is the most important thing you could do, because it connects all the issues. Vegan education connects us to the root causes of the major disruptions of the climate that potentially threaten all life on Earth. Now, I have written about and advocated for non-human rights in court. I have not given up that fight as a lawyer. I have not given up that struggle. But I will say this, we're so short on time. And vital habitat is so much more urgent and complex than broadening the definition of legal personhood. And so I would like to conclude by saying that what we are doing today at Veggie Pride is the most important thing we can do for climate and for animals. An animal-free diet. An animal-free diet is the most important thing we can do. It is time to forget about talking about just vegan options. We're talking about Veggie Pride. It's not just an option. Let's talk about vegan offerings. Let's stop talking about a vegan option as though there's another option. There's no more options. Veganism is the way forward. Let's talk about Veggie Pride. We're here. We're vegan. Get used to it. We're here. We're vegan. Get used to it. Get used to it. We're here. We're vegan. Get used to it.